Welcome all. I hope you all are doing well this fine Saturday morning. Hope God has blessed you. I know He has been. So I want to go ahead and jump into it. But as always, remember, guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask questions as long as the questions are pertaining to what we're talking about. Also, we are not going further than where we have been. And so all we can talk about, all we can discuss are passages, books that we've already covered. Thus far, we have covered these books. We've covered Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Joshua. We've covered a few chapters of Job. A few chapters of Judges. We've covered Job, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. So that is where, if you have a question, feel free to ask questions. We are going to, as we're doing this discussion over Ruth, which is where we're going to be today, the entire book's not a lot of chapters in the book of Ruth. We're also going to go back and look at some things that tie into Ruth that we've already read. Now, I've said before that for the purpose of this Bible study, we are trying to make sure that we don't read into the Bible. Some things that we might want to read into, it might be accurate. We might want to bring in our own doctrine, our own theology into it. It might be right, it might be wrong, but how do we avoid having these problems? How do we avoid having these issues? Well, if we just stay where the scriptures are, easier said than done, but if we stay where the scriptures are, meaning we can only discuss where we are, how do the people who are hearing it, how do they take it? How does the writer, how does he mean it? How does the speaker mean it? There have been some prophecies so far. Some have come true, some have not yet come true up to this point. Some are going to come true later, we're going to find out. But the point is, how we read the Bible absolutely matters. And so far, we have held to one particular type. It has not let us down. And I think that's really kind of the main thing. How you read the Bible does matter, because if you all of a sudden start changing how you read a text based upon your doctrine, your theology, your denomination, what have you, then that becomes a problem. If I read, and what I'm trying to do is help us all to develop our own hermeneutic. Your hermeneutic can be mine. It can be yours. It doesn't matter. I just want your hermeneutic to be consistent. Do not have a vague hermeneutic. And what I mean by that is there's a hermeneutic. It's not really a hermeneutic, but they'll call it a Christocentric or Christ-centered hermeneutic. Well, what does that mean? That means absolutely nothing, because it is subjected to whatever the person who's saying it means. So define how you read the Bible and stick with it. God is not expecting you to be so deep, so intellectual, so spiritual, to where all the hidden things, the mysteries, that you can come up with them on your own. No, because Jesus said, I've told you earthly things. You still don't get it. So how then can you understand, or have I told you heavenly things? That being the case, notice thus far, we all pretty much agree on what's been said. There hadn't been a whole lot of controversies. There have been some people that jumped in, that will come in and say they think this, they think that, but they don't say so based on what we've read. And when we ask them, they'll go to other pastors. They're reading into the scriptures what they've been told. So now, that being the case, I want to go ahead and start somewhere. I said before, we can only go where we've been. And if we make a statement, we have to earn it. We haven't earned anything. At present, we have not heard of Jesus. As far as we're concerned, as far as we are in our study, Jesus doesn't exist. Or the name, obviously he exists. We know who he is. We have seen God the Father. We've seen God. We've seen the angel of the Lord. We've seen his glory. We've seen him show up in physical form. We just have not heard the name Jesus, so we can't bring up Jesus. We can't bring up some of the other things that we know is going to happen. We can't bring those things up. What do we say? We haven't earned that yet. However, I'm going to violate that sort of. I'm going to violate that sort of in how we open up. Yes, we haven't gotten to the New Testament. There's no such thing as a New Testament yet. There's no such thing as Jesus. As a matter of fact, there's no such thing as Rome. There's no such thing as Rome. I had to check my history. I'm not even sure if there's a such thing as Greece yet. There might be. There might be. I think that empire is starting to grow, but certainly there's no Roman Empire. But where I want to start off today is I want to start off in the New Testament. Odd place to start when doing a discussion or a study over the book of Ruth, but you'll see why as soon as I go there. So starting Matthew chapter 1, verse 2. Well, let's start in verse 1. Let's go ahead and keep it in context. The record of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Now, all of these we only know of one person, that's Abraham. But continuing, Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah. And his brothers, Judah was the father of Perez by Zerah and Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Ram, and Ram the father of Amminadab. And Amminadab was the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz by Rahab. Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David the king. And it's interesting how he starts this off. It's interesting in how he starts with Tamar. Well, Judah being the father, starting with Judah. So he goes into Judah. He could have actually gone back further as well. He really could have, but there's a reason why the genealogy starts off this way. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and go to Ruth, the book of Ruth, and let's start off in chapter 1. Now it came about in the days when the judges governed that there was a famine in the land. Interestingly enough, God tends or likes to use famines. Well, because nobody can control a famine. Only God can. God determines when it rains. God determines when it's not going to rain. God determines if the food and vegetation are going to grow, if the crops are going to yield anything. God determines that. And so if there's a famine, you know for a fact this is clearly God. The weather, the winds and the waves, that's his department. You can't do anything about it. So this famine in the land happens, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the land of Moab with his wife and his 2 sons. So now he's got this Jewish man with his Jewish wife take their 2 Jewish sons down to Moab. Stop for a second. Does anyone know who these Moabites are, where they come from? Because it's kind of interesting. It's not so germane to the topic, but Moab, they are descendants of Lot's oldest daughter. As a matter of fact, Lot's oldest daughter, her son's name was Moab. And so the Moabites were descendants of their kind of distant, second, third, fourth, 12th cousins. So they come from Lot. Now, are they part of this tribe? No, they're not. Okay, so they're not considered part of Israel, part of this nation. Are you with me? But I just thought it was interesting to bring that up. So continuing. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon, and something keeps getting in my eye, and Shilon, Ephrathites of Bethlehem in Judah. Now they entered the land of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. Doesn't say how he died, he just died. And she was left with her 2 sons. They took for themselves Moabite women as wives, the name of which makes sense. If you're in Moab, you're going to take Moabite women. They took as wives. The name of them was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. I don't know if you all know an Orpah. I've never met an Orpah. I've met a Ruth before, never met an Orpah. Know of an Oprah, but anyway. And they lived there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Shilion also died, and the woman was bereft of her 2 children and her husband. So all the men in her life are gone. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the land of Moab, for she had heard that in the land of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. In other words, so now the land that they left according to the famine, now the land was receiving food. So the famine is over. So she departed, verse 7, from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, go return each to your own mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. May the Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept, and they said to her, Nope, but we will surely return with you to these people. But Naomi said, Return, my daughters. Why should you go with me? I don't have any kids. I don't have any children. I'm not going to have any kids. I don't even have a husband. And if I were to have a husband and were to some kind of way get pregnant, which is probably going to happen, are you going to sit and wait for these children to grow up, if they are boys, to grow up and you're going to marry them? So no, just go ahead and go. Return, as she says. Let's go to verse 14. And they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung on to her. So Ruth says, I'm not going anywhere. Where you go, I go. Look what she says, verse 15. Then she said, Behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Thus may the Lord do to me, and worse, if anything but death parts you and me. That's commitment. That is commitment. That is love. That is, now, most of you will probably say, you know what? Hey, listen, it's been a good ride. I love you, but I'm still young and I would like to have a husband and some children, or vice versa. I'd like to have a wife and some children. So appreciate what you've been for me. You're a good person, Ruth. I mean, Naomi, you're a good person, Naomi, but I'm going to leave you now. No, not her. Not her. So now this is where we're going to start getting to the good part. So they both went until they came to Bethlehem, and when they had come to Bethlehem, all the city was stirred because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? So apparently Naomi, as well as her husband Elimelech, they must have been some people. They must have had some, they were well known and appreciated, but they're coming back because they got some land to sell, because they're not doing too well. They're poor, basically. Is this Naomi? She said to them, Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara. Mara is the Hebrew word for bad or misery or bitter. Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has witnessed against me and the Almighty has afflicted me? Well, I understand her feeling, but sometimes it's not what it looks like. Sometimes it seems one way that God is doing this to you, when really God is actually up to something even greater. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Not just what you think is going to happen. I understand you all have read or heard the story of Ruth before, but there's some other parts that I want to kind of open you up to if you haven't been opened up to yet. Verse 22, so Naomi returned, and with Ruth, the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, who returned from the land of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. So they're coming around, they're coming at harvest season. Very important. This is an agricultural group of people, and so harvest is vitally important. They're not manufacturing cars and assembling microchips and things like that. That's not, they don't have that. They're not drilling for oil. This is not that kind of economy. So they're going back at an important time. Chapter 2, verse 1. Now Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech. Excuse me. Whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, Please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after one in whose sight I might find favor. And she said, Go to her, my daughter. He said to her, Go, my daughter. So she departed and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Now, let's stop for a second. What we have here, guys, we won't go too far into it, but at that time, if you went to someone's field, you've got servants who are picking things up, who are harvesting things, and there would be people that would come behind them and glean whatever was left over. Are you with me? So you've got, and there's a priority to it as well. The priority belongs to the people of the household whose land it is. But then you've got these other people who are not as well off, the poor, who are allowed to come and to glean. This is kind of how God has set things up, that these nations, these Jews, need to also take care of their fellow man. which we're going to talk about a little bit more as we go forward. So what she's talking about, she's going to glean. Why? Because they want to eat. They want to eat. And so what she's going to glean, what she's going to pick up, that's what the word glean means, to pick up. So she's going to pick up whatever is kind of just left over. And there's a bunch of people out there trying to pick up. It's not just her. And they're looking for some of the best lands to go to. She happens to go to the field belonging to Boaz, who happened to be a family member of Elimelech. Now, is that, did they know that? Don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. Now, behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "May the Lord be with you." And they said to him, "May the Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to his servants, he said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" The servant in charge of the reapers replied, "She is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab." So in other words, they know he also knew who Naomi and who Ruth was. The word has gone out. Now, I don't think this is some booming metropolis where there's a billion people or a million people, but still, they know of at least her husband's family. Because again, they do have land and they're trying to sell what they've got to make a living. Are you with me? So she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she wouldn't ask permission if she could do so. Thus she came and has remained from the morning until now. She has been sitting in the house for a little while. So what he just said was that she asked if she can come and glean. She got permission because it's not their land. You're asking if I can go in your land and glean after your reapers. The reapers work for, in this case, work for Boaz. So she's going to go and glean after them. She asked, and then he states a statement that she's remained from morning until now. She's been out here working all day long. I don't know why the song popped in my head. She works hard for the money. Not that way, but she's working hard for what she can do. Why? Because she needs it. Because it's not just her. This is her love for Ruth for Naomi, as well as her people. These are her new people now. But this is her love for herself. Obviously, she's got to provide for herself, but more than that, but for Naomi. You don't have to work as hard if it's just one person, one mouth to feed. But she's got two mouths to feed. This woman who she loves dearly, which makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder, although the Bible doesn't say so much, it makes you wonder what sort of a woman Naomi was to her children and to her children-in-law, her daughters-in-law. It makes you wonder. Must have been wonderful because neither one wanted to leave, but then this one, she's definitely not leaving her side. And she's really working hard to get something for both of them. So Boaz's servant tells her how hard she works. So now look what Boaz does in verse 8. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen carefully, my daughter. Boaz is a little bit older than Ruth. He's not a young woman. The word that's used for, by the way, let's go back for a second. The word that's used of Ruth is the Hebrew word describing a young lady. Okay, so this Nahara, this is for a young lady, not just a woman or a widow. Naomi is not a young woman. Naomi is not a young woman. Ruth is, and so Boaz, obviously you can see this, and so Boaz is a little bit older. How much older? We don't know. We don't know exactly how old he is or her age, but there's a difference in age. And he responds to her kind of in a fatherly way, not too demeaning, but he says, which is common. It's just common courtesy, like we will say today. We used to be able to say, "Sweetheart, honey," this and that. We don't mean any harm by it now. Some folks take that as a slight. Well, the same thing, my daughter. Listen, my daughter. Listen, my son. Okay, so now let's keep going. So, do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maid. So now Boaz is going to show her some love, so to speak. He is going to help her out. So do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but stay here with my maids. Stick with my people, not just the other people that are gleaning, but stick with the people that actually work for me, for my maids, my servants. That's key. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Indeed, I have commanded the servants not to touch you, because she would be doing what all the other people that are gleaning aren't supposed to be doing. They're kind of hanging behind, going behind after them. But she's going to be with them. I have commanded the servants not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go to the water jars and drink from the servants' draw. So there were different places where they would drink. His servants would drink from one spot, but the reapers, they would go and drink other places. And there was a little place where they can go and kind of sit and chill out, hang out to get some relief from the sun. So anyway, then she fell on her face, bowing, verse 10, bowing to the ground and said, why have I found favor in your sight that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? Boaz replied to her, now listen, this is important right here, guys. All that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me, and how you left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. May the Lord reward your work, and your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. Then she said, I have found favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me, and indeed have spoken kindly to your maidservant, though I am not like one of your maidservants. So she understands the blessing. And think about this. Now, I don't know what Ruth looked like. I'm just going to imagine she wasn't too hard on the eyes. But at the same time, more than that, because it's not like that she would have been the only nice-looking woman there. I don't think that would have been the case. But more to the point, her kindness to Naomi, his kinsman, his kinfolk, so to speak, or a family member of her husband, and that has gone out, and that is special. Do not think it light. Don't neglect the fact that, or take for granted that somebody at some point in time is going to hear of your good doing. More importantly, God will. That's why further on in the New Testament, you'll hear the statement, be not weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap a reward. So you doing what's good, not for the sake of getting something, but just because that's who you are, you doing good because God knows your heart, it will come back to you. You will be blessed by it. Now, when? Couldn't tell you. Exactly how? Don't know. But just do good, and then watch God see your good, and then him outdo your good. Verse 14, at mealtime, Boaz said to her, come here, that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. Wait a second, hold up. Now, she's not only being invited to the choice field and to glean with the reapers. Come on inside and eat with us. Come on in the house. Pretty cool. So she sat at the bedside. So she sat beside the reapers, and he served her roasted grain, and she ate and was satisfied and had some left. So she got her fill, and she had some more left over. Why does she have some more left over? Well, because she's got a mother-in-law that she's going to take some to. So when she rose to glean, Boaz commanded his servant, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not insult her. And so she's getting even. She's literally up close and personal with the people that work for Boaz, that are working in the field. She's literally taking from his plate. She's really taking some of his profits away, because they're going to take this and they're going to thresh this stuff down on the threshing floor, so forth, which we'll talk about later. But he is giving her all sorts of favor. He is giving her all sorts of favors. Boaz pulling a PYT. Might be. He might be. So Boaz commanded his servants, let her glean and do not insult her. Also, you shall purposely pull out, listen to this, pull out some of the grain from the bundles and leave it, that she may glean, and do not rebuke her. It's almost like, and I know folks get upset, but it's like having an Easter egg hunt or a scavenger hunt for little kids, and you drop the stuff right in front of them to make sure that they get it. Leave some stuff right there, some choice stuff right there for her to get. So he is setting it up for her really well. I don't know what she looked like. I don't imagine, but again, I think that coupled with her testimony. Verse 17, so she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. She took it up and went to the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. She also took it out and gave Naomi what she had left after she was satisfied. So she brought back some food. She ate at the man's house and then brought a plate back, so to speak. Verse 19. Her mother-in-law then said to her, "Where did you glean today, and where did you work? May he who took notice of you be blessed." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, "The name of the man whom I work today is Boaz." So she didn't know the field that she went to. She just went to a field that just happened to be a relative. Naomi is going to tell her who she is. Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed of the Lord, who has not withdrawn his kindness to the living and to the dead." Again, Naomi said to her, "The man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives." Then Ruth the Moabitess said, "Furthermore, he said to me, you should stay close to my servants until they have finished all my harvest." Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his maids so that others do not fall upon you in another field." In other words, this is still a time of judgment. This is where the judges are in place. And so at this time in Israel, you've got bad stuff happening. You got outlaws and so forth. I wouldn't say it's a wild, wild west, but maybe it is a wild, wild west out there in Israel. And so stay close so that nothing happens, no one bad comes around you and nothing bad happens to you. So Naomi said, Ruth, daughter-in-law, it's good. So, I'm sorry, verse 23. So she stayed close to the maids of Boaz in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. So now things are going good. She's getting favor. She's doing this repeatedly. Then chapter 3, verse 1. We're almost through with this book. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you?" So Naomi is like, I want to give you something. I want to make sure that you are taken care of. So look what she says. "Now is not Boaz our kinsman, with whose maids you work? Behold, he winnows barley at the threshing floor tonight." When they would take this barley and stuff, they take it to the threshing floor because they're getting ready to get this stuff ready to sell it. This is how they make their money. This is how they make their living. Okay, but not just bringing everything, basically bringing all the stuff to the mill to get it ready. It's also a time of festivity, and they sleep by at the threshing floor or by it. Are you with me? So there's a festivity. There's eating, drinking, kind of merriment, and they're going to sleep there. So she tells her, "Put on your Sunday best. Get yourself ready," which, by the way, it's just good for a lady just to look good. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Get yourself dolled up. Put on your perfume. Get your hair. Get your hair done, or take it off the stand and put on your head. Whatever you got to do. Get your hair ready. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. But get yourself ready. Get dolled up, as she says. Somebody's going to be mad at me for that. I apologize. She says, verse 3. "Wash therefore yourself and anoint yourself and put your best clothes on and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking." In other words, don't go up to him. Let's not look desperate, sweetheart. Let's just, all right, don't make yourself known. And there's probably a couple of reasons behind that, because if you reject it, it won't be public. So it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go and uncover his feet and lie down. Then he will tell you what you shall do. She said to her, "All that you say I will do." Now, a couple things. This is not her saying, go to his bed and lay in the bed with him. This is not that. Okay? This is not that. This is kind of this provision where you lay at his feet and he will either accept you, cover you, take care of you, or send you back. But do this at night, so that way, if anything happens, if it doesn't go this way, then you won't be embarrassed. There won't be any shame upon you. So she did exactly. And of course, this is an older lady, so she listen. She knows what's going on. The man is clearly showing favor, abnormal amount of favor. He's clearly showing her favor, and the older lady knows this. And again, this was a society, a time where it's not like us. You know, men will show favor to a woman because he's trying to get something. Women the same way. But then you what you did was serious. Okay? If there was interest in a woman, it wasn't like you was interested in that woman, that woman, that woman, that one. Let me date all of you, and then let's just kind of see how it shakes loose. Let me throw all of you up against the wall and see which one of you stick. That's not how this was in the society. As a matter of fact, it was shameful to be that way. And certainly the women could not be that way. Okay? So it looks to be that he's showing an abnormal amount of favor. I mean, keep gleaning here. Matter of fact, glean closer. Matter of fact, get with the reapers. Matter of fact, come eat at my table. Here's some more. And so the mother can see this. Naomi can see this. So verse 6 of Ruth 3, she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law had commanded her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain, and she came secretly and uncovered his feet. Just his feet, ladies. Just his feet. She uncovered his feet and laid down by his feet. It happened, verse 8, in the middle of the night that the man was startled and bent forward. So he gets up and leans forward, and he sees her. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your maid. So spread your covering over your maid, for you are a close relative." I'll get to that point in just a second. You are a close relative. There's something going on here that is part of what Jews are supposed to do. We'll come to that in just a second. Verse 10. Then he said, "May you be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown your last kindness to be better than the first by not going after young men, whether poor or rich." Look what he just said. Okay, hold on. Stop the presses. Stop the presses. This is for the ladies. This is for the ladies. And even the older ladies, because it's not just young ladies who are single, but this is for the ladies. Notice what he just said. You've shown yourself to be quite a lady. Because what could she have done? She could have went after the young ones. But you didn't. You weren't just, as they say, thirsty, looking for something or any old thing. She saw something. Now, I don't know what Boaz looked like. I don't know what Boaz looked like. I'm imagining he's probably not the most handsome thing. He's probably got hair on top of his head, so I'm pretty sure he's not that good looking. But he's an honorable, noble man. And she values that as well. Why? Because who was she around? An honorable, noble woman. Are you with me? He notices this. He says, "May you be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown your last kindness be better than that of the first by not going after young men, whether rich or poor." She could have gone after some wealthy young man or some poor young man. She could have, he notices that. And by the way, that's a good quality. So let's continue. So they seem like a good match. Of course, we know they are because we know the end of the story, don't we? Verse 11, "Now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you whatever you ask, for all my people in the city know that you are a woman of excellence." So the word is out. The word was out. Everyone knows that this is a good woman. Ladies, let me just stop again. Doggone it, I'm talking to the ladies today. Your character will be known. How you are, for the good or for the bad, will be known. Let me just tell you this, ladies, in case you don't know. Men speak. Men speak. Men talk. So now that's not to say that there's no way for you to be restored and so forth if you've done things in the past. But understand, men talk. Men talk. Older ladies, you can tell the younger ladies, men do talk. Hey, let me tell you about so-and-so. Let me tell you about so-and-so. Oh, you know her? Men do talk. As a matter of fact, the man that you were with before and the next man, how many of y'all notice that a lot of the people that you've been around know some of the same people that you've been around? It's just kind of how it is. So you're going to have to change yourself to be like a Ruth. This woman is an example. Going through a rough time, how she handled herself is exemplary. And it's known about by the people in the city. People take notice. People notice it. And I am pretty sure that there were some haters in that town. Look at her. Who does she think she is? Huh? Look, Missy. Look. Probably call her fast. Call her hot to trot. Probably call her everything. But she's not. Your true character will be out and people will notice it. Even in spite of those that have whispering words and want to say something, it's known. And what does he say? He lets her know of that. He says, for all the people in the city know that you are a woman of excellence. Verse 12, now it is true, I am a close relative. However, there is a relative closer than I. Remain this night, and when morning comes, if he will redeem you, good. Let him redeem you. But if he does not wish to redeem you, then I will redeem you as the Lord lives. Lie down until the morning. So I'm not going to send you away in shame, but lie down in the morning. Now, I want to cover a principle. We talked about this before, but we didn't give a lot to it because we're going to come back to it, which now is the day that we're going to come back to it. There is this concept, this principle in Israel of this kinsman redeemer. As a matter of fact, there's a concept of just a redeemer, period, but a kinsman redeemer first. A redeemer is one who delivers you, let me just read my notes, who delivers or rescues someone by paying a price. Did you hear what I just said? This is someone who will rescue you, redeem you, save you by paying a price. To redeem is to it means to buy you. So, under the law, a kinsman redeemer would be a male relative who had the responsibility to act towards you for the betterment of you if you were in trouble, danger, or in need. If you were poor and needed help. Okay, so this law, matter of fact, let's go to Leviticus 25, and let's read this. If a fellow countryman of yours becomes so poor that he has to sell part of his property, then let his nearest kinsman, who is to you, to come and buy back what his relative has sold. Or in case of a man has no kinsman, but so recovers his means as to find sufficient for his redemption, then he shall calculate the year since its sale and refund the balance of the man whom he sold it to, and so return his property. I won't go into it, but this principle, like if you've got a neighbor or especially a kin who is in need, you are to redeem them. Even more so if there's some sort of marriage involved. For example, and we'll talk about this in just a little bit. For example, if this boy marries this girl, this boy dies, this brother, the next in line, if he's unmarried, should marry this woman of his brother and in essence redeem her, and she would have children with him for the brother. I know that's weird for us because I'm not marrying my late brother's ex-wife and then have kids for him. But this is this principle because he's setting something up. There's something more important that's involved, and so that's why this is out there. So you need to understand this was the custom, this was the rule, this was according to the law. Are you guys with me? So, verse 14. So she lay at his feet until morning, and she rose before one could recognize another. So she's going to get up early in the morning. And he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Again, he said, why? Because he may not end up being her husband. There's a closer relative, and so it would look shameful. So let's keep this hush hush. Not that anything bad was done. We don't want anyone to think anything bad is done. And he said, let it not be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Verse 15. And again, he said, give me the cloak that is on you and hold it. So take off the cloak that she has on, hold it. So he held it and measured 6 measures of barley and laid it on her. So he took her cloak and just put some stuff in there. Sent her home with a goodie bag. Then she went to the city. When she came to her mother-in-law, she said, how did it go, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done for her. She said, these 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said, do not go to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Then she said, wait, my daughter, until you know how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest until he has settled it today. So what does he have to do? Because there's a closer relative, a closer kinsman, he has to go to that one and see if he wants to redeem her. How so? Well, who does he have to redeem? And that's the important thing to recognize. The kinsman is not there necessarily to redeem Ruth. No, the kinsman has to redeem Naomi. Well, who comes with Naomi? Ruth. So look how this goes. Chapter 4, verse 1. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there. And behold, the close relative, who we don't know who this guy is, thank God we don't know who this guy is, The close relative whom Boaz spoke was passing, so he said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here." And he turned aside and sat down. He took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Then he said to the closest relative, "Naomi, who has come back from the land of Moab, has to sell the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech." So remember, we're talking about earlier in Leviticus having this property, this land, and you want to sell it. Why? Because we need to eat. And so she's here. She has to sell this land. And so do you want to redeem it? And in so redeeming it, redeeming her. But guess what comes with that? Well, before he understands what comes with this piece of land, he's going to end up finding out. But he's up to the task at first. So I thought to inform you, verse 4, saying, "Buy it before those who are sitting here and before the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if not, tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am after you." The it is the land. And he said, "I will redeem it." Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also acquire Ruth, the Moabitess, the widow of the deceased, in order to raise up the name of the deceased on his inheritance." The closest relative said, "Wait a minute. Second thought. Hold up." The closest relative said, "I cannot redeem it for myself because I would jeopardize my own inheritance. Redeem it for yourself. You may have my right of redemption, for I cannot redeem it." Now, his reason for doing so, either because maybe he might be betrothed, or he might be looking at somebody, or he's just thinking out for his own interest. I don't know this woman. I don't want her to take what I got coming, because this is his wife. And so her and her children would end up being owners or partakers of his inheritance. And he's not up for that. He is not willing to pay the price. Well, I think Boaz is tickled to death by this news. Now, this was a custom in former times in Israel concerning the redemption and the exchange of land. To confirm any matter, a man removed his sandals and gave it to one. This is a weird thing. This is really a weird thing. Here's my sandal. Here you go. I don't want your sandal, personally, but that's her custom. So, given his sandal, I don't know what you're going to do with the sandal. We wear different size sandals. One guy wears a size 6, the other guy wears a size 11. This ain't going to work, but it's kind of here it is. Because obviously sandals were important. And so this is kind of like your receipt. This is to make sure that this is binding. Because how else did he get the sandal? Unless you steal it from the guy. So a sandal receipt, yeah. Verse 8. So the closest relative said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself," and he removed his sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses today that I have bought from the hand of Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Shilon and Mahlon. Moreover, I have acquired Ruth, the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife in order to raise up the name of the deceased on his inheritance, so that the name of the deceased will not be cut off from his brothers or from the court of his birthplace. You are witnesses today." All the people who were in the court and the elders said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home," look what he says, may the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel. So this is an awesome prayer, to be like Rachel and Leah. Both of them are esteemed highly. Both Rachel and Leah are esteemed highly, both of whom built the house of Israel, and may you achieve wealth in Ephrathah. Now, by the way, remember that the house of Israel is built off of these two women. Now, these two women also had concubines or servants that also gave birth in place of them as well. But these two women are important. Now, this is, guys, you have heard the story. Let me drink some water. You have heard the story before. We have got to start tracking some of this stuff, because some of this stuff, again, we're going to start tying some pieces that we have already covered. There's a reason why they're bringing up, and we know the story. The story is brought up for our understanding, Rachel and Leah, who are both of whom built the house of Israel. If we were in church, if we were in a Pentecostal church, I would say turn to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, they built the house of Israel." But I'm not going to say that. And don't sit in a room by yourself say that to yourself because it's going to be kind of weird if somebody hears you. But verse 12, moreover, may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. That's interesting. Though the offspring which the Lord will give you by this young woman. Well, let's stop for a second and let's go look at this story of Tamar and Judah. I don't know if y'all remember this. We've covered this before, but the story of Tamar and Judah. This is in Genesis 38. Let's start in 12. Now, here's the story. Tamar is to marry Judah's son. Judah's son, she married one, died. Now, there's this last son that Judah has that is supposed to go to Tamar. Tamar is sitting patiently waiting, and Judah reneges on his promise. Judah is not going to give this boy to her to marry. Now, this is the custom. This is what he's supposed to do. And he also promised. So let's go back to it. 38:12. Now, after considerable time, Shua's daughter, the wife of Judah, died. And when the time of mourning was ended, Judah went up to his sheep shears at Timnah, he and his friend Hirah the Adullamite. It was told to Tamar, behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she removed her widow's garment and covered herself with a veil and wrapped herself and sat in the gateway of Anaim, which is on the road of Timnah, for she saw that Shelah, that's the one that she's supposed to marry, Shelah had grown up, and she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, she thought she was a harlot, for she had covered her face. Now, we won't go into the story, but this is where she pretends to be a harlot. And so what does she do? You're not going to give me the son. Well, let's do one better. Judah ends up sleeping with Tamar. It comes back that Tamar is pregnant. This is like a big soap opera. And so Judah wants to have Tamar killed for being a harlot, so to speak. But wait a second, Judah, you didn't do right. Judah, you're supposed to give this woman your son. So what happens? Before it all comes to a head, or as it's come to a head, she says, I'm going to give you the signet, this ring, of the person whose baby this is. Turns out it's Judah. And Judah's like, oh my God. Oh my Lord. Wow. I can't believe it. You caught me. And so what does he say? Tamar, listen, she's more righteous than I am. So Judah has some babies. This is why what he just said here in Ruth, Judah has babies, which is why they said, moreover, may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. That was one of the babies that she has. Now, remember this name Perez. Let's go back to the genealogy of Jesus. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Those are two twins. Perez was the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Ram, and so forth. So that's why we're hearing the story of Judah and Tamar, because that's a case where Judah, even though he didn't mean to, redeems Tamar. It should have been his son, but it's okay. Judah, you're doing it. You're going to be the one that is going to redeem him. Very important. Very important. I'm going to get to that in just a second. So let's go back to the passages. Let's go to verse 13. And we're going to have some fun. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went into her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive. Isn't that interesting how I put that? That's interesting how they put that. And the Lord enabled her to conceive. What does that mean? Because we're adults here. Who is the youngest in the chats? We got to figure this out because I want to make sure you're old enough to hear this story. We're adults here. I'm pretty sure that when Ruth was married previously, Janae's pretty young, so we got to be careful. Layla, I can't remember. Layla, are you pretty young? I think I'm going to assume Layla's young. I think Renee is pretty young, so I'm assuming that Ruth and that's right, Gabby. Gabby's young. Okay, Gabby, close your ears. You can't listen to this. I'm going to assume that Ruth and her husband, the one that passed, I'm going to assume, no, Simone, you're old enough. You can hear this. You can get into the R-rated movies. I'm pretty sure that those two had sexual relations, as a husband and wife should. I'm pretty sure that those two had sexual relations, young man, young woman, and she did not get pregnant. Well, why? Well, Janae, you're 40? Okay. All right. Oh, so you're not a spring chicken anymore. You're up there now. I'm kidding. So anyway, she could get pregnant. She did not get pregnant. What do you think the reason was? Well, look at what it says here. And the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Who gives life? Who takes life? Who gives life? God gives life. God gives life. And so if you're going to get pregnant, who's going to do that? It's going to be God who does that. If, ladies, you get pregnant, try as you might, I don't care what you do, if the Lord is not in it, doesn't matter. Now, everybody's talking about their ages now. All of you young folks and all of you almost young folk, all of you, everybody if you're 45 and under, you're young. If you're 45 and under, you're young. 45 is when 30 you become an adult. 45 you become grown. 50 you somewhere else. When that card comes, or when that offer to give you that AARP card comes, it's a different category. That's when you you know what, your time is over. It's over. Get you a chair and sit down somewhere. So you 40-year-olds, you got a few more years. You 50-year-olds, you'll know what I'm talking about. Stuff start creaking and popping that didn't used to creak and pop. So it is what it is, though. I'm 50, about to be 51 years young. Praise God. But anyway, it's the Lord who enabled her. Why in the world would the Lord not give her a child previously? We're going to look at that in a second. My man Robert 2Z with the best prison and outside of prison name. He's 68. So let's hold that thought. Hold that thought. The Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today, and may his name become famous in Israel." Will it? Will his name become famous? May he also be to you a restorer of life and a sustainer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him in her lap and became his nurse. She wasn't nursing him, but became his nurse. Which is, hey, it's what a grandmama's supposed to do, right? The neighbor women gave him a name, saying, "A son has been born to Naomi." So they named him Obed. He is the father of Jesse and the father of David. Now, these are the generations, and all it's doing is repeating what we saw in Matthew. So now, here is where the good part comes in, guys. This is the good stuff. Question, because we got to recap some things. We have to recap some things. Now, remember, the other man could have redeemed Naomi and Ruth. The other kinsman, who we don't know who this is, could have been the redeemer. Problem was, he was not willing. The sacrifice was too much. He did not want to share his inheritance with someone who he is not physically related to in that regard. He's related to them, but he wants someone of his own choosing. Nope, sorry. I'll take the land, but I won't take her. Okay. Was that a big deal? Well, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because this needed to come through a certain somebody. Now, there's a reason why they're back in the land. They left the land to begin with. Why? Why did they leave the land? Why did Naomi and her husband, Elimelech, and her 2 sons leave the land? Because of a famine. God likes to use famines. God will drive you away if he needs you to. The measures that he will take to get his will accomplished, they're limitless. He'll do what he wants to because he wants to. And that's that. And you just ride and be happy. Like your parents would say, sit back in the back and shut up. So just ride and be happy. You deal with it. because he's God. Now, the good thing is he's God. So who you're riding with makes a difference. Yeah. See, if I'm riding with Jesus, I don't care if it takes a year to get there. Now, if I'm riding with my Uncle Fred, yeah, I don't care if it takes 15 minutes. I want to get out the car with him. He drinks and smokes and does all kind of stuff in the car. I'll ride with Jesus. The company's better. The trip is better. So we are riding with him. But it's important that God moves them out of the land. Why? Because I'm going to meet somebody. And meet this woman, particularly Ruth, because God is going to show something, guys. I want you to hear what's happening here. So he meets Ruth. They meet Ruth. All the other characters who aren't as important are gone. Now they go back to the land. And they meet a man who is of the tribe of Judah. Very important. Now, we need to recap real quick. Why is it important that we're dealing with Judah? Why is it important that this is happening? Remember, the original Judah left the land because of a famine. Judah is whom this descendant is going to come through. Let's go back to Genesis 49:10. We've covered this before. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet. Well, wait a second. Why is that? Since Judah is not the oldest, Judah is not the second oldest, Judah is not the third oldest, Judah is the fourth oldest. Remember, Reuben, Jacob's son, decides to go and have relations with one of Judah's women. And so you're cut off. But then you've got these other two boys, Simeon and Levi, who were treacherous in dealing with these men, even though the man defiled Delilah or Dinah. Still, you gave them your word and you violated the covenant, and you, as he said, you hamstrung the oxen, which I don't know why that's important. And so now it's Judah. And so he makes a statement: the scepter shall not depart from Judah. Well, why is that important? Well, matter of fact, how do we even get to this point? Because remember, all of this is in this backdrop of them having to go to Egypt. Why do they have to go to Egypt? That's the important point. How are we even here? What brought us at this point in Genesis to Egypt? Well, there was a famine. Now, the reason why they're there, not just because of the famine, is because Joseph is there. Well, why is Joseph there? Joseph is there because his brothers, including Judah, including Levi and Simeon and Reuben and the rest of them, sold Joseph into slavery, who makes his way into Egypt. Now, remember, this is the very same Joseph who, when his father dies and his brothers are concerned, he tells his brothers something that's very reassuring. He says, "Am I not in the place where God wants me to be?" Joseph says, "I am literally where I am supposed to be, where I need to be, where God wants me to be." Wait a second, Joseph. How in the world are you where God wants you to be? You were unjustly sold into slavery. Well, why was Joseph sold into slavery? How is that even possible? Why is that? Well, because there was a famine in the land. But just because there was a famine in the land, Joseph, doesn't mean that you ought to have been in Egypt. Yeah, but more than that, the reason why I'm in here and the reason why you're here because it's famine in the land, I'm here because of a dream. Remember, Joseph had a dream. This dream, not like Martin Luther King Jr., made them upset. They were bothered by that. And because they were bothered by that, they sold him into this land, and they have forgotten about him. But then a famine comes to bring them face to face with their brothers. But still, why did they need to eventually be in Egypt? He could have had a famine and sent them somewhere else. But why? Well, the reason why they are in Egypt, the reason why there's a famine in the land, the reason why Joseph had a dream, the reason why Joseph interprets another person's dream, the reason why Joseph ascends to the second highest in the land, the reason why Joseph can now say, am I not where God wants me to be, is because somebody in the past asked a question. Well, what do you mean somebody asked a question? Well, there was a fella by the name of Abram who was promised by God. We'll get to the promise in a second, but he was promised by God, and he wasn't quite sure. He had some faith, but not as much faith as he should have had, but he did have some faith, and he asked a question. In Genesis 15:8, Abram, who was standing in front of God, says, "O Lord God, how may I know that I will possess it?" And so what does God say? "Bring me a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old female goat and a 3-year-old ram and a turtle dove and a young pigeon." And he brought all these and he cut them in two and he laid them. Verse 12. Now when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, terror and great darkness fell upon him. God said to him, "Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs." Where is this land? This land happens to be Egypt. So why are they in Egypt? Because Abram asked a question. Well, why is Abram asking a question? Because remember, God made a promise to Abram and his descendants. He said in chapter 12, verse 2, "I will make you a great nation." This word nation, or goy, is a people. It's a nation. There necessarily has to be boundaries, people, and rulership. That's why he goes on to say the scepter, because if you're going to have a nation, there's got to be somebody ruling the nation. So this scepter, that they don't know anything about this rulership coming, they don't know anything about the descendants of Judah, is prophesied. You're going to be this great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And he says, "I will bless those who bless you, and the ones who curse you, I will curse you." And he says, "And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Well, what does that mean? All the families of the earth shall be blessed. Will that include Moabites? It sure would. Will that include Amalekites if they're around and they get right? It sure would. That would include every single person. But why? Why would God even go through these great lengths? Why did God make this promise? Why is Joseph having a dream? Why does this dream lead his brothers to jealousy? Why does this dream lead Joseph to be put in prison and then ultimately rise through the ranks in Egypt? Why does this famine happen that brings him there? Why is it told that the scepter should not depart Judah? Why is Abram having even asking a question? Why is Abram in doubt? Why was Abraham even promised this land? Well, because another promise was made previously. The very first promise, you may call it a covenant. You don't have to call it a covenant, but you can call it a covenant if you want to. But a promise was made. To who? Well, the promise was made to 3 people specifically, but also more importantly to all of us. The promise goes something like this. In Genesis 3:15, when he makes this promise of what he is going to do, he's speaking to Adam, he's speaking to Eve, and he is speaking to the serpent. He says, "Know this, that the seed of this woman, his foot shall bruise the head of this serpent." How is this making any sense? Well, because God is going to make sure that this seed, this descendant, who we discovered in Matthew, is descended from Judah, who is descended from the offspring of Judah and Tamar, who is Perez, who eventually makes his way down to Boaz, who they have a son with Ruth, who they have a son named Obed, who has a son named Jesse, who has a son named David, who has a son named Solomon. God makes a promise to David. David, your son, your firstborn son, your main son, your physical son, Solomon, is going to sit on the throne. But there's going to be another son after him who's going to sit on your throne forever. Oh, so that's what that means when he says the scepter shall not depart Judah. Jesus is out of the lineage of the tribe of Judah. All because in Genesis 3:15, Adam and Eve decide to break the rules and be put out. But God, who is a loving God, who is a merciful God, decided that this was going to happen. And so sometimes you don't know what's up. You don't know what God is doing. You don't know why he's doing it. But you have heard him say some things. And God is not a man who should lie. He's not like us. If God said it, it's exactly how he meant it. If he meant to say it a certain way, then it will come to be exactly how he says so. There won't be one thing that's out of place. If he promises 585, it will be 585, not 584, not 586. He is exact. Why? Because he's God. He knows exactly what he's doing. And if he makes a promise, not to just you or to me. One, he stands on his promise because he's God. I want you all to understand this. The reason why we've got these stories is so that we can look and learn. We've got a God who is so precise, but he's also so loving, who will carry out his promises. He could have easily decided, I'm not doing any of this stuff. The moment that they ate the fruit, that's it. I gave him a chance. I don't need any human beings. But he wants to do two things: show his justice and show his mercy. Well, how does he do so? Well, he shows his justice by stating that anybody that sins, death is the penalty. That's a hard pill to swallow. But then he overcomes his justice by introducing his love. So that since death is required, I want you to catch this. Since death is required, I'll pay the debt. This seed of the woman is going to pay the debt. We know that to be Jesus, who is of the tribe of Judah, it's only made possible because of Ruth marries and has a child with Boaz, this righteous woman who's not even Jewish. Well, that makes sense because we got Rahab and other non-Jews who are in this lineage, because God has also made a promise not just to save the Jews, but bless all the other nations. I'm going to bring some folks who are part of other nations into this as well. He promised, I will make a people who are not my people to be my people. People who are not loved, I will call them beloved. And so his love brings about this payment, this debt. And the debt is only satisfied by death. Your death can't do it. Nothing about you can pay the debt, but he says, I'll pay the debt for you. So the seed of woman is going to step on, it's going to crush the head of this serpent. Now, the last victory that Jesus gets over the serpent, over the devil. Can anyone tell us what is the last victory that is to be accomplished when it's finally realized, it's a finality, that the heel of this seed has crushed the head of this serpent? The last enemy to be put away, to make him victorious, is death. And when that happens, as that's happening, he does so on the throne. He is the king at this time. He is reigning, and the last thing that he does to Satan and to the enemies of him is to put to death, so to speak, and all of his enemies as well as death is thrown into the lake of fire forever. And so this is why the story of Ruth is vitally important. We see what God is doing, and he is keeping, it's like this great love story, this great soap opera, this great drama. All of this stuff brings us up to this point and is going to be fulfilled, or I should say inaugurated, at the cross. Tell me how good God is. Amen. Before we go, let me see if anybody, I like that. He said, kick rocks, death. Kick rocks, death. You got to go. You got to go. And so the last thing, can you imagine? There's going to be a point in time where people are going to be living a long time. That's what Isaiah tells us this, that if you die before 100, that's just unfortunate, because everybody's going to be living, for the most part, longer than 100. There are going to be some folks who are going to die before them, but those are not his people. Babies won't die in the womb. Right? Look, no more abortion. Babies won't even die in infancy. No more infants dying. But there are people going to still die, though, even during his reign. And then after his 1,000-year reign, the last thing that he's going to do is he's going to put death away. How cool is that? I'm so glad that God is God. I really am. I'm so glad that God is God. By the way, Dorina, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, sister. So before we leave, thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm praying to put this lesson in a sermon. Cool. What's funny is I had no intent of going this direction. I really didn't. I was thinking of going somewhere else. What are the I just saw it. What are the gods mentioned in Ruth 1:15? Let's go to Ruth 1:15. Doesn't say. It doesn't say. But what's interesting is that the word that's used there is the word it's the word uh Elohea or Lahea. So it's the plural form of Elohim or El. It's related. It's the same as Elohim, but it's not the God. But they've gone after other gods. Doesn't say. There are hundreds and thousands of different gods, and the cool part is, what did Ruth do? She forsook their gods in place of the God, which is actually what Rahab did. Joan has a question. Where's Joan's question? Let's see. Is she lying at his feet as a form of respect or submission? Well, it's really a form of submission, but really more than that, it's actually kind of a plea of help. You lay at his feet in hopes that he would cover you, in hopes that he would protect you and bring you in. It's almost, and in this case, it's in this matter of fact, certainly in this case, it's a way of, it's like, hey, I'm single, I'm free, I like you, sort of, because she could not do that. She absolutely could not do that if either one of them were married. She couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. So it's a way of asking for help, protection from a maid to an older man. So, but she lays at his feet, and she uncovers his feet, gets her attention. Hey, brother Andre. Doggone Andre, I said, call me. You said I'm gonna call you. You ain't called me. By the way, Andre has a Dallas Cowboys shirt on. He got I said a shirt, a Dallas Cowboy jersey. I don't know what to say about that. Although one of my new favorite players in the NFL is Mr. Deuce Vaughn. I want to see that man do well. Just a little tiny fella. Listen. He's smaller than me. I could probably beat him up. Even though he's young, I could probably take him. I'm kidding, but I am rooting for that boy, and it's crazy. I'm literally rooting for a Dallas Cowboy. I'm rooting for him. I am rooting for him. Listen, I've had guys from Texas Tech go to to the Cowboys. I'm not rooting for them. Nope. Anyway, he said God's team. Listen, one thing we know for a fact: there are no Cowboys in heaven, and there's no. Listen, Cowboys aren't even mentioned in the Bible. Colts are. Even Eagles and Giants are mentioned in the Bible. What are you going to say about that, Mr. Anderson? Yeah, so, sorry. I can't remember, but I think in Judges there's something that relates to Ruth and Boaz time, or yeah, there is. We're going to come to that because people think that maybe this is happening around the time of Gideon. We hadn't gotten to Gideon yet, and so we are going to. So that's why I didn't bring that up. So yes, because remember, let's go back to the picture, put on the screen. Remember, this is a complementary book, so this story is happening at the backdrop of what's happening in Judges, and so you're going to see other stories, other things written that aren't necessarily germane to the main theme. Is, oh, by the way, it's kind of like watching a movie. You all watch a movie where the main character is doing something over here, and then they'll cut away and show something that's happening over on the another part of the country or another part of the city. That's kind of the same thing that we're having happen here, but it just adds to it. So I'm gonna surprise you guys too. Let me just tell you this: I'm gonna put on a cowboy shirt. I want to wear a cowboy shirt. I want to wear a cowboy shirt for one of the live streams. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate the super sticker. Appreciate that, sister. Thank you. You all don't believe me, but I'm gonna wear a Cowboys shirt. Now, I'm gonna help you out too, because yeah, the giants are in the Bible. There are giants in the Bible, but they get killed. They get slain. So, King Griffin. That's just mean. That's just mean. Y'all can hate on my team all you want to. You all can hate on my team all you want to, but the Bible says in Luke, the Lord needs the Colts. They ask you, what are you doing with that colt? That's never been written. The Lord has need of it. Yeah. Nothing wrong with the Cowboys. I'm starting, you know what? I'm actually, believe it or not, the Cowboys are starting to rub off on me. I don't dislike the Cowboys as much as I used to. Partly because it's kind of, it's hard to dislike somebody that hadn't done anything. You feel more pity, but I think the Cowboys are growing on me. I think the Cowboys are growing on me. Regina says, "Go Pack, go." I think they're growing on me. So I'm gonna wear a Cowboy shirt. Do I attend Saturday church? No, I do not. Or do I attend church on Saturday? Let's see. That's cute. Let me see if there are any other questions. But yeah, Jeff, Jeff's a good student. Jeff is just good. Jeff is just good because that was good for you to make that point. I wasn't going to make that point just yet because we hadn't covered it yet. But yeah. Thank you, Adam Brown. I appreciate that. Thank you. Listen. We're not talking about rugby. We're not talking about rugby. Which book will we cover next week? We are back in Judges next week. Who do we leave off on Judges? I can't remember. All I know, it will be session 19. And so chapter 4, okay, thank you. So we'll be back in Judges on next week. And then let's see. I think we have, if I'm correct, I think we've got 2 weeks of Judges. And then it picks up. It picks up. We're going into 1st and 2nd Samuel. We're going in 1st and 2nd Samuel. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I love you all. I've got to do a few things. There are a couple of videos that are coming out later today. And I haven't decided if I'm going to cover this weekend or on Monday the seven dangerous reasons for what is it called? The 7 dangers. The 7 dangers of once saved, always saved. Someone put out, and it's silly. It's foolish. It's like, did you actually research what you just said? And he says, I didn't mean it to. I don't want to straw man their arguments, and he then proceeds to straw man all the arguments. So, all right, guys. Love you so much. I've got a bunch to do. So I will see you all. Go Bears. I will see you. Bears are cool because the Bears, they teased the prophet about his bald head, and a bear came down. So I'm cool with the Bears, and I'm really cool with the Bears because the Colts beat the Bears in the last Super Bowl, so that we won. So praise God for the Bears. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much, and the rest of you. God bless you. You all are the best on YouTube. Thank you so much. God bless you.